Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be starting the book of Deuteronomy, and we're going to go from chapters 1 through 6. And really cool because actually, at the end of this book, I was just kind of looking ahead. We're going to see um, the first change, if you will, change in regards to the fact that this is a chronological study Bible that we're going through. So at the end of Deuteronomy, Psalms 90 is placed right at the end of Deuteronomy. So and so the uniqueness of how the books are ordered in this Bible are going to start showing itself very soon. So if you're studying along or just joining in and want to continue studying along, we're going from Genesis to Revelation chronologically. So you need the chronological study Bible. I will send you that Bible if you need it. All you have to do is email me at becauselove never fails@gmail.com with your physical address, and I'll send you the Bible post haste. So join along, guys. Um, I want to read some comments about just the book of Deuteronomy in general before we dive in. And the it says it's quoted over 80 times in the New Testament, and thus it belongs to a small group of four Old Testament books: Genesis, Deuteronomy, Psalms, and Isaiah, to which the early Christians made frequent reference. And then it also, another comment, it's likely that this book, well, let me backtrack. So in terms of Christ, Jesus' temptations that he goes through in the wilderness for 40 days and nights, three of these temptations are specifically recounted in the Gospels for our spiritual benefit. Not only did Christ use the Old Testament sword of the Spirit three times, but each time he used the same part of the blade here being Deuteronomy. It is likely that this book was one of Jesus' favorites, and it should be one of ours as well. Also, there's this thought towards Deuteronomy because the word Deuteronomy is a Greek word meaning from the Greek Septuagint. Again, remember that's the Old Testament translation, the Greek translation. It's called the Septuagint. Anyway, Deuteronomy means second law. So as if this is just a repeat of things that have already taken place. While it's certainly a summary, God doesn't repeat himself for no reason at all. So really, the proper perspective towards this book is that it's a restatement. So it's almost looking back at history, and what we see here is we see Moses with the new generation of Israelites, because remember they've gone through this 40 years in the wilderness. They're all the people who rebelled, who didn't want to go into the promised land in the beginning. All those people have passed away except for Moses, Joshua, and Caleb. Those are the only three original people remaining from that first tribe of Israel. So new generation. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing this incredible summary, this incredible restatement of everything that they've gone through to get to the point they're at, and really is a reminder of, hey guys, we're going into the promised land. This land that's been promised, that was promised to our forefathers, and now we're actually at that point. So let's take a summary. Let's take a gander back at what's going on. And I'm excited about the book because one thing that I see here in reading Deuteronomy is if you had to start with the five books of the first five books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, if you started in Deuteronomy and just use this as a summary to then just kind of backtrack into the others, it's really really brings everything together. And just my mind, I'm more of a forest thinker at first, so give me the forest and then let's get into the trees. So just kind of neat. Also neat to have read, and done the details up to this point, right? And to have the summary, to just be reminded of that. Okay, let's see, maybe some other. So we talked about the restatement. Also, the book of Deuteronomy is rich in exhortation. In Deuteronomy 5:1, so we hear, we learn, and then we do. So there's this exhortation given to the people, and as a result given to us. Okay, so diving right in, starting in chapter 1. So Moses is speaking to the Israelites, and remember they're on this side of the Jordan, so they're going to be crossing over. So they've come up. Remember, they've come up out of Kadesh Barnea into through Edom, through Moab, and then they've taken this land which was given to Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh. And they're east, so this being the Jordan River, they're east of the Jordan, so they're going to be crossing over and then into Canaan. So they're staged here. This is where Moses is on the east side of Jordan. He will not, as we will see, and as we've seen from previous studies, he will not be crossing over to the Jordan because of a disobedience to God. But he does get to see it, and he also gets to intercede and be part of Joshua taking on this authority and leading the people across the Jordan. Okay, so in chapter 1 it says, "These are the words which Moses spoke to all Israel on this side of the Jordan, in the wilderness, in the plain, opposite Suth, between Paran, Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizenab." And we see here too, in verse 2, "It is 11 days' journey from Mount Horeb by way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea." So this is where the spies originally went in. So literally it would have taken them 11 days to get to the promised land, yet they had to wander through the desert for 40 years. Okay. So it says, the Lord, this is verse 6, "The Lord our God spoke to us in Horeb, saying, You have dwelt long enough at this mountain. Turn and take your journey, and go to the mountains of the Amorites, to all the neighboring places in the plain, and the mountains and in the lowland, in the south and on the seacoast, to the land of the Canaanites, and to Lebanon as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. See, I have set this land before you. Go in and possess the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give to them and their descendants after them." And so tribal leaders are appointed, and it says in verse 17, "You shall not show partiality in judgment. You shall hear the small as well as the great. You shall not be afraid in any man's presence, for the judgment is God's." So there's this spiritual leadership given to the leaders of the tribes. And in 19, we see again here the Israel's refusal to enter the land. Just saying, hey guys, remember we came up from Kadesh Barnea. We were told to go up and possess it as the Lord God of your fathers has spoken to you. Do not fear or be discouraged. Spies go in, they come back. Joshua and Caleb give a report of, hey, let's go, let's get this done. The other spies were saying, no, we can't take it. There are giants in this land, there are fortified cities. And the result was a rebellion that led them to the journey in the wilderness for 40 years. And it says in verse 25, "It is a good land which the Lord our God is giving us. Nevertheless, you would not go up, but rebelled against the command of the Lord your God, and you complained in your tents. Then I said to you," verse 29, "Do not be terrified or afraid of them. The Lord your God who goes before you, he will fight for you according to all he did for you in Egypt before your eyes, and in the wilderness where you saw how the Lord your God carried you as a man carries his son, in all the way that you went until you came into this place." And then the penalty for Israel's rebellion, um, again we see Caleb. Only Caleb and Joshua will go in. And in talking to Moses, it says, he says, "Even you shall not go in there." Verse 37. "Joshua the son of Nun, who stands before you, he shall go in." And then he's telling Moses, the Lord's telling Moses, encourage Joshua, encourage Joshua, for he shall cause Israel to inherit it. And then, the result here, we see again where the Israelites, once being admonished, they're saying, hey, let's do it. You're right. Let's go for it. And so Moses tells them, hey, the Lord's not with you in this. You've already rebelled. The Lord's not with you. If you go up and fight, you will not have success. Indeed, we see that they're driven back. And then chapter 2, the desert years. And so in the desert years, as they're wandering, it's really cool here because some of the things we see is they're told to go through Edom, right? So as they're journeying, they're going to be going through Edom. They're going to be going through Moab and these areas of Ammon. And God is telling them here, hey, look, when you go through these areas, first of all, you're going through this area in Edom, which the lands are promised to Esau. So these have already been granted. These have already been given as an inheritance to Esau. So none of these lands will be yours. So go through them peacefully. Also, here remember Lot. Lot had originally asked with Abraham, had asked for the regions east of of the Jordan. So these would have been Lot's lands. And we see that in chapter 2. So I just thought that was really cool that, hey, this land has already been promised, right? Because God will always keep his promises. So go through peacefully. And that's what they do. That's what they did, is they went through, and again, that boundary of the river Arnon north was where we saw Gad and Reuben and Manasseh. That land was given to them. We also see mention here of the Amim, Anakim, and the Zemzuman, these giants of the land. Um, Interesting, you guys could delve into the giants, and kind of a fun study. But as you do that, there's all kinds of information out there, and in doing that, whatever you come across, just remember this, and remember this throughout all of our studies: do not give up what you know for what you don't know. Right? So as things are being revealed to you, and as it's just making sense, and God's revealing to you who He is and what's going on in the Bible, don't give that up. Right? Don't give that up and be psyched out by what you don't know. Okay? Piece of wisdom. King Sihon defeated, so we see Sihon defeated, we see Og defeated, and then in chapter 3, um, as Og is defeated and they're going up against him, the Lord tells him in verse 2, do not fear him, for I have delivered him and all his people and his land into your hand. You shall do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt at Heshbon. So they did. They attacked him until no survivors were remaining. Then the land of east of the Jordan was divided. So we see again here the division between Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh, and Moses being forbidden to enter the land. And Moses actually prays here in verse 25, I pray, let me cross over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, those pleasant mountains in Lebanon. And the Lord was angry with me on your account, Moses says, and would not listen to me. So the Lord said to me, enough of that. Speak no more to me of this matter. Go up to the top of Pisgah. Lift your eyes toward the west, the north, the south, the east. Behold it with your eyes, for you shall not cross over this Jordan. But command Joshua and encourage him and strengthen him, for he shall go over before this people, and he shall cause him to inherit the land which you will see. Then chapter 4, Moses commands obedience. I love verse 2 here. He says, you shall not add to the word which I command you, nor take from it, that you may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you. And as we go through, he's talking about these statutes and that are to be followed. Again, as you enter into this land, observe these. And then verse 7, for what great nation is there that has God so near to it, as the Lord our God is to us? For whatever reason, we may call upon him. And this is just, it's kind of humbling. It seems just like a humbling statement to read verse 7. Hey, we've been chosen, and whatever, for whatever reason, we may call upon him. And then take heed to yourself, verse 9, diligently keep yourself, lest you forget the things that your eyes have seen, unless they depart from your heart all the days of your life. So again, observe these things, tell your children about them, and then beware of idolatry. Verse 24, for the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. The amazing thing with all the gods that are presented, throughout Mesopotamia, Babylonia, Egypt, the God of the Israelites, our God, does not have an image. There's no image, and as these temples were raided by people, throughout history as we move forward, they were always impressed with the fact that there was no image of God, right? So there is no idol, do not make a carven image. And also in verse 26, I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day that you will soon utterly perish from the land which you cross over the Jordan to possess. You will not prolong your days in it, but will utterly be destroyed, and the Lord will scatter you. And this is referring to that in verse 25, if you act corruptly and make a carved image in the form of anything, this is what will happen. And ultimately we're going to see the people of Israel do this. They are going to make carved images. They are going to bow down to other gods. And even with this, in verse 29, we see God's mercy here. And mercy and almost prophecy. It's like, look, here's this command, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, right? Yet in verse 29, but from there you will seek the Lord your God, and you will find him if you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul. So in other words, he had said, hey, I'm a jealous God. Do not make a carved image. And if you do, I will scatter you. We're going to see all this take place. But guess what? When you're scattered and you find yourself in this place, if you seek me with all your heart and with all your soul, then he'll deliver us. Okay, guys, that's it. Till next time, God bless.